Once a season, I try and do a show on Brooklyn. Get out of Manhattan, do the boroughs. Queens is going to shoot me because I owe you a show. I know that, and Bronx and Staten Island, but we did the Bronx. Staten Island, you got to wait. Anyway, we're at Park Slope, Brooklyn, 5th Avenue, kind of becoming the new hot street over here. 7th Avenue really was the first to develop maybe 7-10 years ago. Now 5th is on the move. Aldila, lots of great restaurants, and this is a neighborhood in transition. Behind me, you got the clothes hanging out in the window on the 4th floor. Down that way, you got the $1 million condos. This is Brooklyn. People are coming here from Manhattan. Real estate's going through the roof. Park Slope, I love you. This is like the suburbs to me. Here we are. Restaurants, Park Slope, 5th Ave. Stay tuned. First stop, Stone Park Cafe with, yes, a couple of Manhattan refugees who wanted to do their own thing and are really doing a beautiful job with new American cooking right off the park here.
All right, so scallop sales table, please. There's a rundown bodega and 2 old one-story garages. So there was no restaurant space here. There was, as far as we know, there was never any restaurant space, which was a big part of the challenge.
Bouillabaisse with the ruby. I saw the croutons on the side.
Scallops, little chorizo broth, fresh chorizo, some manila clams this time, some saffron risotto. We always quipped that we wanted to win the Beard Longevity Award. We have an 18-year lease here. We want to be a neighborhood place long into the future, and to do that, Brooklyn restaurants have to keep their price points a little lower than Manhattan restaurants. We still use the same quality ingredients as Manhattan restaurants, so therein lies the challenge. Our rents obviously aren't quite as high, but we're a neighborhood place. We have a hamburger on a menu, we have a fish sandwich on our menu, right alongside, lamb chops and diver scallops and, Dabo Chatham cod, and people sit down to eat here, or they sit at the bar to eat, and somebody will order the burger and somebody will order the cod, and we're very pleased to do that.
And I think also we wanted to cook from the heart. We really wanted to cook food that we loved because myself and Josh Foster, we love food, we love wine. It's a labor of love. If you do well, great. A lot of people don't do well, but we really wanted to cook food from the heart with integrity, using fresh ingredients.
There'll always be a place for the Chanterelles and the Bernardins in New York, but we really feel that neighborhood dining is, a crucial element of the landscape for New York restaurants, and that's what we're about.
We couldn't miss including this little deli, classic Italian deli. Not run by the same people it's been, but the same traditions. Seems to have been here forever. I love these little hole-in-the-walls. I'm here with Mel Diaz, the owner now. You're running this place of the A&S. A&S has been here how long on 5th Avenue in Park Slope?
1948.
1948, 58, someone do the math. That's almost 50 years.
Yeah.
60 years, almost 60 years.
60 years.
And who's A&S stands for?
Anthony Chiquitano was the original owner.
Now Diaz, you told me Uruguay?
Uruguay, yes.
This is great. So you got this Italian business that you picked up?
Yeah, my mother's Italian. My mother's from Sesto Levante.
Okay.
It's near Genoa, like 10 miles from Genoa.
That qualifies. You're Italian then. Welcome to the tribe. Tell me about what you're doing here.
We do meats, mostly meats. We do catering. And we do a lot of prepared foods too for the neighborhood.
And this is a classic Narrow deli. Now you say meats, I'm looking at this, you got beautiful meat here. That's prime, dry-aged porterhouse.
Yes, we do all prime meats. People say we're the best mozzarella in Park Slope.
We're going to find out in about 2 minutes. Hold it right there. Hold it right there, baby. Go Brooklyn. So a guy trains, gets great chops, works for years in 2- and 3-star restaurants, and then decides, pizza? Well, yeah, why not? After spending years working in Manhattan, now we've got Franny's. Great fresh pizza coming out of a hot oven, fired by wood. You gotta love this place. Inexpensive, wonderful, run by a husband-wife team.
It was my brother-in-law's idea, actually. He said, you guys should open a brick oven pizzeria. And it just made a lot of sense, because for me, Italian food is my favorite. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I read about. It's what I think about. It's what I like to eat. And it was the perfect way for me to be able to cook Italian food and have a restaurant and make a living at the same time.
We've seen a lot of our friends in the business have a very, very difficult time opening restaurants. Small restaurants, very high cuisine, high price point, and struggling. and we didn't want to struggle that much. And everyone loves pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? So it just seemed like the right formula. We also lived down the block, so we really knew what this neighborhood needed. And this is pizza, but it's, you know, the best.
What the oven does is the heat. You can't get the heat that this oven puts out with anything, you know, with any kind of gas-fired oven. The most important thing is the heat. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of brick oven pizzerias that fire with wood that don't keep their oven hot enough.
How hot is it?
It's anywhere from like 825, but it can get up to 925, you know, on like a Sunday after it's been burning all week and we're just going crazy busy, keep throwing lots of wood in. But the main thing about the oven is the heat, cooking the pizza as fast as you can cook it. I mean, sometimes we can cook pizzas in a minute and a half, which is, you know,
wow.
It's just crazy. It's a number of things, but if there is enough flame shooting over the top, acting as a, you know, broiler effect.
Radiant.
Right, you'll get beautiful bubbles on the top of the crust and nice caramelizing of the cheese, and that combined with the bottom makes the perfect pizza.
The moment of truth. That's what everything comes down to. Every show, you know what I mean? Ducasse, Thomas Keller, they sweat. You don't know. Hey, maybe it's not good. Who knows? Nobody knows. This thing smells great. Look at the bottom of this thing. Little tiny marks from that 850 degree oven. Oh, that's great. When you mention Fifth Avenue in Brooklyn, almost everybody mentions Al di La. It seems to be the perennial favorite. Been there a while, doing it completely right. Husband, wife again. She's a major talent, and I love this guy. A Venetian, runs the dining room like some kind of, I don't know, Venetian parlor of sorts, but it's fantastic. The food's great, the prices are reasonable. This is well worth the trip out of the city.
At the beginning, when we opened, we had people curious about this new place, and then the same people, they came back every day, and they still come back.
They still come back. It's a fun part. Really.
Well, that's nice. Huh?
Yeah.
It's the fun part of the restaurant business, you know, that they've grown with you.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
not that anything wrong with new customers, but old customers, it's just swell.
We started out trying to serve primarily Venetian food, and I think there is much of it is. It's more also about just the spirit of Italian cooking, the way the ingredients are used, sort of a clarity, a simplicity.
Yeah, ingredient driven.
Yeah.
So a lot of fish, a lot of vegetables, because in the islands, in the lagoon, they grew beautiful vegetables, beautiful small artichokes, and a lot of influence from the east, because when in the past Venice was all over the east, so a lot of spices have been used in the Venetian cooking that are not so common in other regions. And then a lot of wine, of course, because in Italy there are this small bar called Baccari, where they serve cicchetti, that are tapas, are finger food, and they open in the morning. So you know everybody in Venice. You walk on the street, and every 3 people you know one. So you stop, you chat, and you go to have a small glass of wine. They have a glass, very small, a small glass of wine, few tapas, and that's it.
10 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know. People say, "Why did you leave?" I'm still asking myself that question. We're in Brooklyn, you know, the old farmlands of Brooklyn. There in Fifth Avenue and Park Slope, the verdant green. Well, I'm here down, luckily, where I live in the farms, and to do something homey Italian, something fun, like a soup, like a minestrone kind of soup. What do you got growing right about now that's going to be good in soup?
I got corn, tomatoes, peppers, squash, put that in soup.
Beans?
Beans, lima beans, string beans, potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we're going to go with the, and we have basil growing right now for sure. I know that's in everyone's garden. So we'll do something with basil, we'll do something with squash and the beans, and turn it into that kind of like a minestrone kind of soup. And could we talk to Nancy for 1 minute? Nancy, I'd just love to get you on camera for your story here. You'll be great. You'll be great. This is a great. People have to know this history. I'm here on Taylor Farm, way down Cape May County. We're south of the Mason-Dixon line down here, and this is Nancy Taylor, 4th generation family farm down here, right? Now tell me about. You remember when was it your dad or your grandpa was actually butchering cows and all that stuff?
That was my father.
Your father. Tell me a bit about those days.
Well, we had a slaughterhouse, and we made our own butter and our lard and sausage. And then he had a market truck and went to Cape May and peddled the meat and the vegetables.
So he was servicing the big old hotels in Cape May on the beachfront.
Yes.
And actually, and growing, and besides all the agrarian, besides all the farm stuff, he was actually growing cattle, chickens, and pork.
Yes, he was. All those things. And then we had horses.
Yeah, the horse. You're smiling.
Well, the horses did some of the work that the tractor does today.
And you had dairy cows as well?
Yes.
So you were drinking fresh, unpasteurized milk and cream and butter from those cows?
Yes. And we made the butter. Yeah.
I don't know, the only thing they're making down here now is condominiums as far as I can tell. But God bless you. That's a great story. Thanks for telling us.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot, Nancy. Brooklyn. I love what's happening with that whole, from Greenpoint and Williamsburg to Park Slope, Bed-Stuy. I mean, the whole Red Hook they're talking about now, the whole area is just on fire with this exodus from Manhattan, all this talent. Who can afford to be in Manhattan anymore? Who can afford the retail rents? Who can afford the residential rents? I mean, if you don't have a rent-stabilized apartment from 1979, man, you're toast. Studios you're selling for $500,000? I mean, forget about it. So the good news is, as Manhattan more and more becomes the playground for the world's ultra-rich, apparently, when you want to hang around New York, you got to move to the boroughs. You got to go somewhere else where you can get affordable housing and affordable retail space. And there's all this talent that just keeps coming out of the city. And, we saw with Park Slope, 7th Avenue was sort of the main vein of retail as historically in Park Slope. Now it's drifted down towards the water, towards 5th. I think the further down you get, it even gets dicier. But, 5th is great. And so I'm going there. We saw this really nice neighborhood restaurants, the kind of places that New York seems to have fewer and fewer of anymore. Price points are reasonable. Owners that are there all the time, pick up the phone, the owner answers the phone, you want to come with your wife, your daughter, your friends, at 7 o'clock they got a table for you. I mean, this is tougher to do in New York, but you come away from Brooklyn with the sense of what neighborhood restaurants were supposed to be. Places where locals could just come and congregate and feel welcome to bring their children and have fun, and you meet neighbors there. Franny's and Aldi La, that Stone Park Cafe. That was the sense I got. And so what do you cook walking out of there? And I'm thinking, well, we saw so much different stuff. We saw pizza, we saw Italian, we saw that really nice modern Manhattan cooking at Stone Park. So what am I going to do? Good question. Well, I'm going back to like what I saw at Aldi La, because I love that. That's my roots, that sort of outer borough, ethnic Italian, grandmom on a shoestring cooking. Not that that's what they're doing, but it's from that tradition of Italian ingredient-informed cooking. And I thought about, well, okay. Also, I like Brooklyn, although anymore I'm not so sure it's blue collar. It always was one of the blue collar boroughs. So, and I'm blue collar if I'm anything. So I remember my grandma used to make a dish. She used to make this dish with beef shanks. These are beef shanks. We're going to make a soup. So yield number one is you braise these beef shanks that are still reasonable expensive, $2.99 or whatever. We're going to sear these beef shanks, braise them for a couple of hours, 2.5, 3 hours, till they're absolutely tender. Remove them from that liquid, skim the grease off, and from that beef stock, we're going to make a real nice Italian-style summer vegetable soup. Because it's summer here. We were out there picking. I've got the peppers, I've got the zucchini, I've got a can of beans here. This is going to be one of these soups that's like a meal in itself. We'll finish it with some fresh basil, a little bit of cheese. That and a piece of bread is lunch, or even a really light dinner. It's a great hearty soup, and you could also put some of this diced meat back into it. But what Grandmom used to do that I loved, is she would get this meat after the soup, and you figure, now what? She'd clean it up, pull it off the bone, take off all the connective tissue, kind of rough chop it, and then make this wonderful warm salad of this meat braised. Celery diced, onions, rough chopped fresh parsley, peppermill, a little bit of sea salt, in her case it was probably Morton's, and olive oil. Just all bound together and eaten as like a warm summer lunch salad, and it's a beautiful dish. Real peasant ingredients, real humble roots, really delicious. So without any further ado, let's sear this meat off, get the soup stock working, and then we'll come back and do the other two dishes, in 3 hours. All right, I've got a pan. It's getting hot. In the meantime, we're going to just season these bad boys the way we always do. A little salt. Let's see if this pan's hot. We'll know when we put the oil in. because we'll see how that oil behaves. It's hot, it'll get thin quick and give us a little smoke. Let's just take a peek at these. You don't need them too brown. That's perfect. I just want to sear them. I've got all my meat seared. Did it in batches. We're going to put it back in the pan. And we're just going to top it off with some H2O. So it's a very basic, very simple beef stock. All right, this has come up to a simmer. This is the first simmer. And what I'm going to do is just skim these proteins. This is just scum that gets thrown off. And it'll happen in the beginning. It'll happen a little bit during the cooking. And I just don't want this stuff. It's just going to be ugly in the soup. So, the Tibetan bowl. So here we go. I'm going to chop up the vegetables. Soup. What am I making? I'm making soup. I said I was going to make soup. What kind of soup? Well, you know, once again, Brooklyn, home, my kid. You know, I was a kid in the neighborhood. Grandma. Soup was whatever you had laying around. You know, this isn't per se. This isn't ducasse. We're not going to peel peas and then make a puree and then float tapioca in carrot juice or something. Man, this is soup. This is like you got the stock from this. Open the fridge, whatever you got, that's how soup's supposed to be. So we pick these peppers. We're going to have peppers in the soup. We're going to have squash in the soup. We're going to have some onion in the soup. I got beans in the soup, cooked beans. They're going to be great. I'd love to have some pasta, but I don't have any. I was going to put little elbow pasta. That'd be perfect. Maybe I'll throw some rice in. Who cares? We're making soup. If you don't like it, make it differently next time. As usual, we take this out of the pepper. Just that snap of fresh. And we're going to cut them in a size so that they fit on a spoon right next to my squash. And I'm going to do something here. I'm just going to use the outside section because the inside's a lot of seeds. See? And again, I want these just small enough to fit on the spoon. A little of this yellow squash we got this morning, then at the farm. Now I also have some beans here, but what I'm going to do with these beans is rather than cooking them with the soup, I'm going to clean them and I'm going to blanch them. And I've got some salt, some water here. Don't remember if I salted it, so we will again. Good, now we know it's salted. Again, let's cut this celery. Same way we cut everything else, so it fits on a spoon. I've got this stock here, and it's been cooking for, I'm going to say, the better side of 3 hours. And I've got a fair amount of grease. These are marrow bones, so there's a fair amount of fat in them. I don't necessarily want all the fat out of this soup, but I definitely want some of it. Just scoop this meat out with a slotted spoon. And you can see what a beautiful stock this made. I mean, look at the color of that. Perfect. All right, get a little olive oil in here. All right. You can tell, you hear that sound. Pan's hot, but it's not screaming hot. We got a little steam coming out of the side of my pan. Let's see what we look like. Watch out, camera. You're going to get some steam here. Yeah, just a little. Good. It looks pretty. All right, let's get these beans out of the way. Again, we blanch these. I'm going to put these back in at the end because I want the color to be nice and bright and green. So we're just going to cut them nice and small and get that out of your way. I don't know what that is, a cup maybe, something like that. Not too much, but enough so you feel it. And I mean, that's just a pretty sight already, isn't it? I've got it up to a boil. I'm going to add the pasta and just give it a nice stir. So the pasta gets up off the bottom and into the broth. And the meat, I'm just going to pick it apart. I don't want small pieces. I'm taking off any like this connective tissue that I don't like. So, and it's easy to clean. When it's warm like this, it's easy to clean. When my kids were little, I used to get this meat for them, chop it up a little finer, cut it thin, salt it, give them a little couple drops of broth and serve it to them on crackers, and they went crazy for it. They would ask for this boiled beef snack. They still do. And they're picky freaking eaters, you know, but this, when it's warm like this, it's just delicious. The vegetables are tender. I'm going to go ahead and add now these blanched string beans. And I'm going to add a can of beautiful cannellini beans. Just because, again, this is the sort of peasant-style, simple I mean, this is a meal, man. And the last thing I'm going to do is finish this off with some fresh basil or basil puree. All right, onion. Next, I want a fair amount of celery in here. All righty, and again, small. Yeah, this is local parsley. And I'm just going to cut this chiffonade. I'm not going to go crazy with any shapes. I've pulled the stems out because I don't want stems in my mouth. All right, what we have here is what you know what we have here. It's this wonderful mix. Now I'm going to start with a little sea salt. And this is going to need salt, so we'll taste it at the end, see how it goes. Some beautiful coarse black pepper, 4 or 5 turns of something good. I got Telechuri, I think, from Calustian. And a beautiful extra virgin olive oil. And I want a fair amount in there because, again, the shin beef is dry. And we cooked it, so there's nothing in it. No fat left. We trimmed all the fat off. We just want it to coat everything. I'm going to plate some of this up. I got this idea. I always change. The middle of cooking, I got a new idea. I'm just going to grate a little cheese to top this soup with. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, it's a meal to itself. Oh, that looks good. All right, there's your soup. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of cheese across that. Oh, please, please. If your mouth's not watering, check your pulse. That's good. We'll put a spoon in that in a minute and eat it. Then we're going to get this little, just simple, artisanal bread here. I toasted. Took me forever to get it to toast. All right, first things first, let's take a look at this soup. It's beautiful. You got the, I mean, hello. It's a meal. I mean, if that's not a perfect little lunch, dinner, I know a lot of you people could do this for dinner. Not me. Not me. I should. Maybe one day I will. I'm going to start listening to my doctor. But fresh basil, you can smell all those vegetables. That's not me. That's Grandma's recipe. That's not me. Now let's dive into this bad boy. Well, here's the deal. You just get a little bit of the meat, a little bit of the celery. You know, I love this. I love this when my grandma made it. You know, it's one of the things I love about old-style cooking. Our grandmothers could go to the market with $2. You know, they weren't coming back with fresh porcini. They weren't coming back with Dorade Royale. I don't remember coming back with, you know, foie gras and mesclun microgreens. They come back with whatever the heck they were selling at ShopRite or Acme or Walmart, whatever it was. And yet from these things, and this is what I love about Italian food, about folk cooking, is from the simplest ingredients, you get these great elevated results. So Al di La was fantastic. Those people were an inspiration. I've got to get out there and have another meal. And since we were there, we missed the Blue Ribbon Sushi's out there, another New York City Manhattan transplant. Mary's Fish Camp has a Brooklyn fish camp, right same block, I think, as Blue Ribbon. So 2 more additions there. It's just amazing. So all these New Yorkers going over to Brooklyn, 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue, Prospect Heights, Carroll Gardens, Williamsburg. I mean, there's this whole new subcontinent of restaurants. Anyway, enough of this riff. Thank you, Grandma, for inspiring these dishes today. This is one I've always wanted to do on TV, and I found an excuse. And it's great. I'm telling you, as soon as we're off camera, I'm eating that one. And this soup, well, use your imagination. For any reasonable person, it's a meal. Cook at home, cook with your family. Fill your house with these great perfumey odors. Everyone will have happy memories of it, like me and my grandma. Can't go wrong. Till next week.